Next.
Yeah, I think I'm good now.
Yeah, Lucas, go right ahead.
Cool. All right, let me share my screen here. All right, can you guys see this?
Yep, looks great.
All right, sweet. So the project I'm going over today is Ribbon Finance, which is structured products in DeFi, but it's majority options right now. Although it can expand into others in the future. So just a quick overview of Ribbon. The idea is sustainable yield. So kind of Aladdin's mission is to find sustainable yield across farms. Although Ribbon is not necessarily farming. Basically, you're selling out of the money options to generate some yield, and it's not something like the 3 to 4 digit APYs that you'd see at some pools, but like generally like somewhere between 10 and 30 or 40% annualized, which is pretty good. Um, and right now, there's just a few products on their V1, which is just ETH calls and puts, and then there's a wrapped Bitcoin put vol as well. So the current strategy of Ribbon vaults are they sell zero point 0.1 delta weeklies, calls and puts, depending on whatever vault you're in. And they basically leverage the entire open ecosystem and the OG tokens. Actually, if you look up on like DeFi Llama or something, on the like TVL of open, something like 95% of it is Ribbon, because the way that they settle options weekly are they work with market makers like Ledger Prime or Wintermute, and they mint and then sell the O tokens, OTC via Airswap, to these market makers. So essentially, everything is done on chain. Although there is this kind of like back end coordination with the market makers, and currently they price a little bit lower than Durbit premiums. It just to incentivize the market makers to do that, and purchase the options. So it's not, even though it's grown to like over 100 million in TVL, it's all still very like institutional stuff put on chain, right? It's not like truly DeFi yet. But Ribbon V2, which is launching in the next coming weeks, kind of aims to make it like true DeFi, and that's with two enhancements. So the one is algorithmic strike selection. So currently, the way that they choose strikes are they just check out the team behind Ribbon checks out Durbit, picks the strike at the 0.1 delta, and that's kind of where they go. But in V2, the strike selection is completely done on chain. So it pulls from a chain like Oracle, and using a 0.1 delta or whatever the vault is configured at. I think eventually Ribbon governance may be able to kind of change the parameters for what the target delta is. And then from there, it chooses the strike, and then proceeds to sell it via the auctions. And the big one of the big benefits of having that algorithmic strike selection is the fact that right now there's 4 vaults, and the team has to do a lot of coordination on the back end every Friday between choosing the strikes for each one, coordinating with the market makers, making sure that the trades go through Airswap properly and that the premiums are dispersed to the vaults. So just having the strike selection completely on chain allows for probably hundreds of vaults really, since it's all algorithmic. And then the second limitation with V1 is the fact that you have to sell to these market makers, and you have to coordinate the OTC trade and the address and stuff. So even though it's on chain, there's a lot of coordination, right? But in V2, there's going to be open auctions done through Gnosis auction, which right now with 100 million TVL, it's probably going to be the biggest use of Gnosis auctions to date. As every week, since the options are weekly, there's like $100 million dollars in open interest every week being sold, which is just all going to be funneling here through the Gnosis auctions, this is very nice, because now it's not limited to only the 3 or 4 market makers that are purchasing these options. Anybody can come in and purchase them, and that could be any other fund or any individual. And while we are waiting for long vol vaults to kind of be put out by the team, if you want to hedge if you want to hedge your vol, it might, as it might expire in the money, you could just purchase the option through the Gnosis auction at the beginning of the week, which is super helpful. And in addition, with having algorithmic strike selections and open auctions being built in, there's a few integrations that can be built on top of Ribbon now. One of them is MetaVaults, right? So already we have a call and a put ETH vault, right? So say you wanted to create a strangle position and you just wanted to have somebody enter directly into the strangle. Someone could pretty easily code up a contract that just deposits the user's funds equally into the call and the put vault to form a strangle position. With the Gnosis auction being available now, you could form kind of really any combination of option payoffs that you want, straddle or whatever you really want. So meta vaults are going to be super interesting, right? Like right now we have like 4 kind of like primitive vaults, right? Just straight calls and puts, but you can kind of chain them together to kind of emulate whatever payoff you want. There's also this idea of cross vault selling. So if we have a short call vault and a long call vault, ideally when the short call vault is selling through the Gnosis auction, the long call vault might be buying from it, which is super interesting. And then as mentioned before, you can use the Gnosis auctions to hedge your weekly calls. And so that's the general overview of the product. Some quick statistics on options and DeFi and crypto kind of broadly. So I just ran these today, and these are like super high level estimates. But essentially, if we're just talking about ETH, the DeFi options market weekly is about 80 million notational, where just checking on Uniswap, the spot for a week in volume is about 9 to 10 billion, which is a crazy difference. Considering when you're talking about like normal equities and stuff, and these are denoted in shares for the S&P 500, options volume exceeds spot volume. And it's only by a little bit, 8.6 compared to 6.3, but the difference between where DeFi options are trading at compared to the spot is crazy, right? And that kind of just shows like how, early the options markets are in crypto, but also just like how they're not fully developed yet, right? There's not really a good way to deploy your capital across a bunch of strikes and expiries because there's just not the liquidity there, right? And then some stats on Ribbon. So I think last week they just crossed 1 billion notational in options traded, and it kind of, as mentioned before, they do around 100 million a week. And the last one I found interesting is Ribbon versus Durbit. So Durbit's kind of the hot place to trade options right now. And while it's centralized, it's basically where the ETH and the Bitcoin options are normally traded. And when you look at Ribbon versus Durbit, it actually already makes up a pretty decent share of Durbit at a given strike and expiry. So all of these charts below kind of show Ribbon's percentage makeup compared to Durbit's. But the thing to note here is like you might see where Ribbon is essentially the entire open interest on the ETH protected put, but that's specifically at the 0.1 delta expiry sold last Friday for 1 week, right? So a lot of Durbit options are generally sold monthly. So Ribbon has kind of an advantage there on the weeklies. But the important point here is it's super interesting that Ribbon already makes up a like very, very decent share of Durbit, and they're only at 1 strike price and 1 expiry. So actually, like I don't have the chart here, but if you went to like metrics.durbit.com and checked out the just like the skew across like say like weeklies at certain strike prices, and then you add in Ribbon's notational on top of it, the skew changes like very greatly. It's actually an interesting research topic to kind of go into on how Ribbon's open interest kind of affects the broader option market, especially with V2 launching, more vaults launching, meta vaults, and kind of being able to sell across multiple strikes. But yeah, so that's just my quick intro on Ribbon and kind of a little bit of an overview on the options market and DeFi.
Awesome, Lucas. Thanks. Does anyone have any questions? Sorry, hopefully you guys could hear me there. I'm not talking into the mic very well today. But yeah, any questions? Actually,
Just sorry, I have
Luke,
just an
Luke,
addition. Yeah, sorry.
oh yeah, Martin, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm happy to see Gnosis auction in action, because I did like we did something like the former project I have been building. We used like a fork for Gnosis auction, and so I know the auction protocol quite well, and I was looking forward how this works out, because it's a pretty interesting concept, I think, to sell a huge volume and in a fair way. Yeah, it's just an addition more. The rest, it's very finance technology for me myself. So I don't have a lot of knowledge about this. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
When
yeah,
it's the
yeah.
first auction? Is it next week, or do you know this?
Yeah, the first, I mean, they've been testing a few on chain over the past few weeks, but the first like open auction and launch of V2 should be next week.
Okay.